Hello friends, welcome back to Cosmopolitan Cornbread. So over the years, I've done many canning videos and I've gotten so many questions about these little canning mats that I have that you see me placing my hot jars on. I have two of them and they were both made by the same sweet subscriber who I was able to meet one time in person at an event in Alabama. And like I said, I've had so many questions about these canning mats, and they're actually a really simple sewing project. And so I thought I would take you through the process today of making one. Now, you can make one whatever size you need it to be. You can make it fit your entire countertop if you want to. But whatever size you would like to make it, you'll need to cut 2 pieces of fabric that are made out of a natural material like cotton muslin or duck cloth, which is a heavier cotton, or maybe even linen. You don't want to use anything that could possibly melt. No polyesters or polyester blends, nothing acrylic or anything like that. Stick with natural fibers. Cotton's going to be the easiest, of course. And it comes in all sorts of lovely prints. But you'll measure out the size that you want your canning mat to be, and you'll add 1 inch. So if you wanted a canning mat that was 20 inches by 24 inches, you would cut 2 rectangles of fabric that are 21 by 25 inches. Now, anytime you're sewing something, you want to wash the fabric before you cut it, and you want to launder it the same way that you would launder the thing that you're going to be making. So the fabric that I used to make the canning mat that I'm going to show you today was machine washed and dried. So again, you'll need 2 pieces of fabric, cut the size that you want your mat to be, but add 1 inch to the height and width. Now the batting that I used on the inside of the canning mat is this kind right here. It is an insulated lining, so you can use it to make pot holders, canning mats, of course, and other things. It reflects heat and cold back to its source, so it will protect your countertop or tabletop, wherever your hot jars are going to be sitting, and you can also use it to make other things. I'll put a link to where I got it in the video description down below. So here you can see I have my 2 rectangles of fabric that I've cut to the size that I want, and I'm just ironing them to make them nice and smooth. Now I'm going to cut a piece of the lining, which is very much like quilt batting. I'm going to cut this piece the exact same size as my 2 pieces of fabric. Then I take the 2 pieces of fabric, right sides together, and the lining that I cut, and I get them all lined up with their edges together. I'm going to flip that over because when I'm sewing, I like the lining or batting to be on top. I took 2 pins that were a different color than all the rest of my pins, and I marked an opening about 5 or 6 inches apart. And then I'm going all the way around the rest of it and pinning all the layers together. So now I'm going to sew this all together a 1/2 inch from the edge of the fabric. I started at one of the blue pins and I'm going all the way around, and I'll come back to the other blue pin, leaving that 5 or 6 inch opening. So now that it's all sewn together, you can see the corners here. We want to remove a little bit of that bulk. So I'm going to cut the fabric and the lining off at the corner. Just cutting the material and making sure not to cut through any of the stitching there. And I'm going to do that on all 4 corners. Alright, so now where I left that opening, I'm just going to reach in there and we're going to turn this right side out. Now you want to take your time when you're doing this. We've got a lot of bulk right here and we don't have a very big opening. So be gentle, you don't want to tear any stitching or anything like that. Just be patient and take your time. It'll turn. Now that I have it turned right side out, you want to make sure that you get the corners pushed out as best as you can. Alright, back over to the ironing board. Now we're just going to iron this, especially all around the edges. We want to get a nice crisp edge where we just sewed that all together. Alright, now here at the opening we want to make sure that the fabric is folded in and it's nice and even with the rest of the edges of the canning mat. Iron it smooth. Now you can see where that opening is. I'm just going to take a couple of pins and I'm going to mark where each end of the opening is, just to make it easy for me to find, because in a minute we're going to stitch this together. Back to the sewing machine. Now just as I went to sew this, my battery died on my camera and I didn't see it, but you can see right here where I had marked the edges of the opening on each end, and then I sewed along the opening as close to the edge as I could get to close it up. Now we want to finish off these edges so that everything just kind of stays nice and tightly together. And so we're going to go all the way around one more time, and this time we're going to sew about 3/8 of an inch from the edge of the canning mat, because we do have a little bit of bulk in there at the edge where the edge of the lining is folded over, and so this will help kind of bind that all together. Now we've got one more thing to do. So now as you can see, we have all of these layers and we want to make sure that they stay together. So to do that, I'm going to basically kind of quilt it together with the sewing machine. I fold it in half to find the center. Now if you want to be super precise and measure this and mark it, you can, but I just fold it in half, to see where the middle was. And I just mark it with a pin. And I'm just starting up at the top. And I'm just going to sew a straight line right down the middle. I put the pin at the bottom so that I could see exactly where I was aiming for, to make sure that I was going right down the center. Now if you wanted to, of course, you could use like fabric marking chalk or something like that to get a perfect line, but this worked just fine. Now after going down the center, I took one side and I folded it into the middle to find the center of that part, making it 1/4. And I did the same thing with the pins. And again, sewed straight down, top to bottom. And then after I was done with this side, I did the same thing on the other side. Now for one last run. This time I folded it in half, going the long way, and I'm just going to go from one end to the other, right down the middle. And there you go, friends. That is how you make your very own custom canning mat. Again, you can make this in any size that you like, out of any fabric, as long as it's a natural fiber. And I'll put a link to the insulated lining that I used in the video description down below. Thanks for spending time with me here again today, friends. God bless, and I'll talk to y'all next time.